It's time for the Wrestlecast on the Sportscast Media Network. Join us now for a discussion on wrestling at the high school and college levels. Here's Gage Gill, Shane Barron, and Danny Davis.
Welcome to the Wrestlecast, a podcast on area high school and college wrestling. I'm Danny Davis, and I'm joined by Shane Barron. Gage Gill could not be here this week as he is spending time with his new child. Gage, we were thinking about you and your family, and Gage has actually recorded some stuff for us, and we'll be getting to that in a minute. Shane, how was your Christmas and New Year's?
I have had much worse Christmases than this. This was a pretty good one, Danny. Got the gift I wanted. I'll just tell you that I got the gift I wanted. I won't tell you what it was. Probably make everybody out there envious of me. But congratulations to Gage. He told me through an email he might not be able to make it this week, and I'm like, why? And then I kind of figured it out when he said, hope to bring home a future wolf. So congratulations to you, Gage. Good for you, and best wishes to you and your family.
Or a future podcaster, maybe.
Well, you trying to get rid of me already? I just got here, Danny.
Got a few years. How did the kids go back to school yet?
My kids at New London, they went back Wednesday, so we got 3 days under our belt already. As I unfortunately had to say a couple times, your vacation is over. It's time to get back to work and get back to the regular routine of school. And that didn't seem to go over too well. But once you get the routine down, you have to reteach some stuff. But once you get the routine down, we're off and running at New London.
You were kind of busy over the break, and actually you spoke with wrestling coach of New London, Brian Swafford, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, we've got a segment called Point or Counterpoint. Shane will take one side of the argument, and Gage will take the other. This week's topic is the debacle at the Soldier Salute with AJ Ferrari, and let's have a listen.
Iowa fans have been waiting for AJ Ferrari to enroll, to sign. The Ferrari brothers are a known commodity in the wrestling market, and all the Iowa fans can see is perhaps a chance to get at Penn State. I was one of them. After watching AJ Ferrari at the Soldier Salute, I can honestly say, Mr. Ferrari, I don't need you. We don't need you. We'll do just fine. The double middles that he gave to the crowd is a sign that despite all the allegations and all the media turmoil that Mr. Ferrari has been in, he has not learned his lesson. He is trying to promote himself, Mr. Fast Twitch, as a entity bigger than the Iowa program, bigger than college wrestling perhaps. I do not want to see college wrestling start promoting their athletes in the manner that professional wrestling has done. I almost waited for Mr. Ferrari to start styling and profiling and showing his Rolex just to spite everybody in the crowd. I almost was waiting for a woohoo from Mr. Ferrari, a la Ric Flair. So, Mr. Ferrari, your talent is limitless, and good luck in the Olympic trials. If you don an Iowa singlet ever, good luck to you, but you have lost one fan already.
I agree with everything Shane said, but I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate. I feel like when Iowa brought the Ferraris to the state, they knew exactly what they were getting. You know, AJ was doing the splits for fans. You know, he had the charges that were dropped on the sexual battery. He had a different instance where he passed 3 cars going up a hill. You know, some of them were Oklahoma State athletes on other teams, ended up getting life-flighted to a local hospital. You know, those types of things, like what he posts on Instagram and whatnot, you knew you were getting all of that. To me, all the fan posts, you know, that said, you know, hey, this behavior, I don't condone it. I agree with it. I don't think you condone it. But all the people that said, I was with it, kind of like what Shane said, I was all for it until this. If you knew this is what you were getting, this is what you got. You know, Cody Chittum, very good wrestler, was in the Iowa room. He left because the Ferraris came in, is the big rumor out there. You know, and so when you look at the 2 instances of what happened, one with his younger brother, you know, he pushed Rachi pushed him, and then when they got up, you know, the big shove came from Anthony, and then Rachi turned and, you know, did the Ferrari flex. As far as AJ's, he really instigated that in my eyes. I get there was controversial styling calls in the match and everything like that, but he pushed Glazier, down, and that kind of started it. And then he popped him. It wasn't a huge swing in contact. It was more like a slug bug. Here's, I guess, the big thing. How bad do you want to win if you're the Brands brothers? How bad do you want to win? Because if you feel like these guys are going to help you and you can look the other way with some of this, but that's really the question you got to ask yourself, because what this is going to do, the wrestling room, it will create competition, but will more wrestlers in that Iowa room choose the Cody Chittum path and leave and go somewhere else because they don't want to have to deal with it?
We've had Corbin Jewell on the program before, and you caught up with him in a segment called Rapid Fire, where we ask a series of questions, and that person has to fire off the answer, basically without much thought. Let's see how it went. Here's Corbin Jewell.
Corbin, you wrestle at 144 at New London, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you 15 quick questions. You just answer the first thing that pops into your mind. Are you ready, sir?
Yep.
Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga?
Taylor Swift.
Superman or Batman?
Batman.
Burgers or brats?
Broads.
Hunger Games or Squid Games?
Hunger Games.
Press Your Luck or Family Feud?
Family Feud.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Texas or Washington?
Texas.
Thanksgiving turkey or Thanksgiving ham?
Turkey.
Little Debbie or Hostess?
Little Debbie.
Sports car or big truck?
Truck.
Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts.
ER or Grey's Anatomy?
Grey's Anatomy.
Dan Gable or Cale Sanderson?
Dan Gable.
Pythons or boa constrictors?
Boas.
Greatest crime movie, is it Goodfellas, Casino, or Scarface?
Goodfellas.
Have a good season for us this year, okay?
Yep.
All right, and as I mentioned, Gage couldn't be here this week as he welcomed a new baby to his family. He did send us in some clips. One of those, he asked if wrestling coaches should be fit or if it even matters. Let's hear what he had to say.
So since I obviously can't be there to record in person, I'm interested to hear what Shane and Danny have to say. My first one, should wrestling coaches be physically fit? Like, should they be able to get out there on the mat physically fit, look like they could still go wrestle?
All right, thank you, Gage. What are your thoughts, Shane?
What, on being fit?
You had a wrestling coach.
I don't know if I think a wrestling coach has to be fit. They probably are fit. They got to know what they're doing. Former wrestling coach, I often wondered why they didn't take their skills to the collegiate level, and he kept saying that to be a truly effective wrestling coach, you had to get on the mat with them and roll around and really demonstrate things like that, which would probably indicate that they have to be fit. But as a person who's been a track coach and a basketball coach, my athletic days are well behind me. It'd be pretty hard to say that I'm in tip-top condition right now. So maybe with wrestling, you do have to be fit, but other coaches, other sports, maybe it's the X's and O's or the ability to recruit. So that one's kind of up in the air for me.
I don't think that a coach being unfit should be a disqualification for his job and his teaching experience there in the wrestle room. But on the other side, I think a coach that is fit sets a good example for everyone.
I was a coach for a different town for just a couple of years. I said I'd give it a try and told the athletic director I didn't really know much about this sport. And he goes, yeah, but you know how to talk to kids. Obviously, coaching is such a diversified avenue to talk. You have to be a psychologist. You have to be a tactician. You have to know your X's and O's. You have to know a lot of things. But for wrestling, you need to know about nutrition too, to keep these athletes in tip-top shape without being too weak on the mat. So I'm just going to have to give that a little bit more thought.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Gage, for sending us that question. Our Olwine correspondent, Dan Stacy, called the girls' wrestling tournament between Elkader and Olwine and sends us this report.
I'm Dan Stacy reporting from Central Elkader High School here in Elkader, Iowa tonight. There is a big girls' wrestling tournament here tonight, a great girls' wrestling tournament here tonight at Elkader Central High School involving the Olwine Huskies and many, many other wrestling teams here. Great competition here tonight at this tournament. About 800 people in the gymnasium. Some of the best wrestlers in Iowa, all the way from Des Moines to Dubuque, participated in this girls' wrestling tournament here tonight. Specifically for the Olwine Huskies, Riley Hartman did very well. She won 2 of her 3 matches for the Huskies. for head coach Brock Sorensen and assistant coach Quentin Jensen. Riley, who made it to state last year for girls wrestling at Extreme Arena in Coralville. The girls state wrestling tournament will be there February 3rd this winter. Riley won 2 of her 3 matches tonight for the Huskies. Also, another good O-line wrestler. Riley's at 115 pounds. At 120, Jocelyn Schwartz won 2 of her 3 matches this evening for the Huskies, doing a great job. Saturday, this coming Saturday, January the 6th, the O-line wrestling girls don't get much of a break. Tomorrow they go to Denver, Iowa to wrestle against the Denver Cyclones tomorrow, Saturday. So a great night of wrestling here at Central High School here in Elkader, Iowa. A lot of girls wrestlers were here from many different schools, from Southeast Polk in the Des Moines area all the way to 2 schools from Dubuque. Dubuque Senior and Dubuque Waterloo West was here, and many smaller schools were here as well, like Starmont and Waukon. So thank you for tuning in. I'm Dan Stacy, and have a great evening.
All right, thank you, Dan. And Shane, you had an interview with Sophie May, and you had some rapid-fire series of questions for her. Let's have a listen.
So we're going to ask Sophia some questions in the rapid-fire segment.
Okay.
Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga?
Taylor Swift.
Superman or Batman?
Batman.
Burgers or brats?
Burgers.
Hunger Games or Squid Games?
Hunger Games.
In game shows, do you like Press Your Luck or Family Feud?
Family Feud.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Vanilla.
Texas or Washington?
Texas.
Thanksgiving turkey or Thanksgiving ham?
Thanksgiving ham.
Little Debbie or Hostess?
Little Debbie.
Sports car or big giant truck?
Big giant truck.
Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts.
ER or Grey's Anatomy?
Grey's Anatomy.
Dan Gable or Cale Sanderson?
Cale Sanderson.
Pythons or boa constrictors?
Boa constrictors.
Greatest crime movie ever. Is it Goodfellas, Casino, or Scarface?
Goodfellas.
Okay. Interesting answers. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you, Shane.
Sophie's a good kid. She just came to us from Florida. Her dad became a teacher, teaches right next door to me. A lot of different aspects of wrestling, and just getting involved with New London has been fascinating to watch Sophie go through that. She comes from the Tampa suburbs, and so it's a complete adjustment for her as far as trying new sports, going from a humongous school to a small rural school. And but they've adapted really well as a family, and she's adapted really well as an athlete, and she really loves wrestling. So I'm glad I got a chance to talk to her.
And let's have a listen.
The Wrestlecast has Sophia May. She is a 7th grader who went through the rigors of middle school wrestling this year and had a successful season. Started off with a few learning experiences, and then I think had about 5 out of 7 pins, or 5 out of 7 wins in your last 7 matches. Is that right, Sophia?
Yeah.
Can you kind of describe what it was like to wrestle this year?
It was a little rough at first, learning, but I'm a quick learner, so it was really fun once I got into it.
You have the sort of mindset that some other ladies we've been talking to, you just don't like to lose, do you?
No.
So what did you learn about yourself when you did have those early struggles?
Well, I learned that I got mad at people who didn't do good calls.
What are you going to take into next year when you can't use the referees as an excuse? What are you going to do for next year?
Just practice good sportsmanship.
And is there any of your moves that you learned your favorite?
Any moves?
Yeah, is there any favorite moves you got?
The carry.
You like that one? Okay.
Fireman's carry, yeah.
Fireman's carry. So upcoming opponents, watch yourself. Sophia May is on a mission for next year.
We had spoken earlier about coaches being fit or not fit. I personally would not want to mess with Brian Swafford at this age. I don't know what his age is right now, but he still looks like he kicks some butt. What do you think? You spoke with Coach Swafford.
Swaff is perhaps one of the most fascinating people you will come across in this area. He's trying to branch out in different things. He's going to be doing Tiger Cast Wrestling for for you, Danny, in the next couple of weeks when that gets rolling for New London at least. But he cannot get away from wrestling. He is no longer an official part of the program. I popped my head into a middle school meet one time just to see how my students were doing, and there he is. He just loves wrestling. He loves working with kids. I think you'll find that during this interview, it takes a lot more to be a wrestling coach than just a resume of how many victories you had. He comes from a wrestling lineage, but the reason I wanted to get an interview with him, an in-depth interview, is I've known this guy for years, and I knew he was a pastor, but Win Magazine, wrestling magazine, did a very long profile of him on his recent things that he's been doing. He's been marrying basically a lot of the wrestlers that he used to have, and he's kind of turned into not only the person who marries them, but he's also the kind of person who, you know, every marriage has their roller coaster and up and down moments. He's a guidance counselor. He's a marriage counselor. He's a pastor. He's a wrestling coach. He's a baseball aficionado. I mean, there's just nothing that he doesn't know too much about. So I think you'll enjoy this interview. I don't know if I want to call him a Renaissance man, but he's pretty darn close. So I hope you enjoy the interview with Brian Swafford. Privileged to have Brian Swafford, a wrestling coach of quite a bit of accomplishment here at New London. I know Brian well. I used to coach football with him. You're not just a wrestling coach. As a matter of fact, you're kind of a Renaissance man. Can you? Well, I know that embarrasses you, but
well, I'll have to say right off that I do feel uncomfortable talking about myself. It's so much easier talking about everybody else and stuff. And I remember all those days, Shane, coaching alongside you, and it was just a tremendous fun. But yeah, I've been at New London for 36 years. And that ended last March. And so I'm trying to get used to a normal life with just a spackle of sports. I'm trying to get off omeprazole for my stomach. That happens over time when you get an upset stomach and stuff from all the coaching. Yeah, I've done a lot of different sports. Later on, I picked up junior high football. Maybe the next year, we picked up junior high wrestling and high school wrestling. So we were together. In some of those years, Mark and I were together doing junior high football and wrestling, and then high school wrestling. And then later on, my wife and I started having kids. I let go of the baseball for a while. As they were getting older, I jumped back into baseball with Mark, and we did baseball together for a while. I've done a lot of things here at New London, and New London has been a second home to me.
For those of you who don't know this, it's a Facebook thing that's being passed around for the local New London people. Brian was just featured as one of the stories in Win Magazine, which is wrestling magazine. Win is a very prestigious wrestling magazine, but you didn't get in there because you didn't get the story written about you because of your wrestling coaching. It was about how many of your former pupils you have married as far as a pastor is concerned. What gives you more satisfaction, seeing the adult version of a student that you used to work with, making that next step into a responsible adult life as a married person, or just seeing some kid that overcame obstacles to maybe upset some guy on the way to state or something? What gives you more charge?
I've spent the majority of my adult life working with young people and teenagers, and mostly guys. And because when I was a young guy, I needed some help, and I wanted to be that kind of guy and mentor, and somebody who could give young people some direction. And I wanted to be the first guy that those junior high guys got a chance to get to know as a coach. I wanted it to be a good experience for them, that they're going to like junior high. It's a stepping stone to high school. And I wanted it to be a fun experience. I wanted them to learn a lot, and I wanted them. It was a good chance for me to kind of see where they're at.
Well, let's put it this way. Have you seen a drop-off, not only as a coach, but from what your perspective as a coach and now just observing the current team, are teams having trouble getting a lot of wrestlers to go out because they don't want to try it anymore? Or
all of us as coaches, I think in the last 20 years, we've seen a shift. Certainly technology plays a big role in all of life right now. We're seeing technology, whether it's social media or phones and things that you and I didn't have growing up, and so video games and all kinds of stuff that can get their attention and is a lot of fun. So we're vying for attention, but getting to know that and kind of getting to see where they're at, that probably helps me to approach them with a challenge that might be worth listening to me.
These kids who go off the mat after they've lost, they put so much into it, and they're like in a corner, crushed. The emphasis on winning at all costs is, I feel, is a real detriment. Sometimes the things that would motivate me competing, it was an eye-opener to realize that it wasn't a motivator for everybody. So I had to figure out what motivates this guy, and girls, man, that's a whole different world. That's a different discussion. Well, we've had a whole broadcast devoted to whether or not female wrestling is on the same sort of trajectory as women's basketball, perhaps. Do you see wrestling for females like skyrocketing here in the next couple 10 years?
I can see it growing. I can see it growing. Just around this state, with the girls wrestling on many of the teams today, I think that it's going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of. I like seeing the girls competing against the girls. I didn't think I would like that, but I've gotten to where I really like it. And back in the 20 years ago, when kids were competing, and then the girls would be competing in the boys' sports, I really didn't really appreciate watching that. And whether it's the signs of the time and we're getting more used to it or whatever, but if you have an avenue for athletes, I think they'll come to it and they'll appreciate it and they'll have fun at it.
I ended up liking the women's sports more. You really got to see how the game should be played, because they couldn't just use raw athleticism to cover up mistakes. As a coach, do you see kind of an evolution of the females actually executing wrestling moves better than their male counterparts because they just can't out-muscle some guy, or they just can't out-quick some? I don't know. Maybe I'm off base with that, but do you see that or not?
That's a good question. The comparison, there are some differences, I think, men and women competing in sports. I grew up in Minneapolis where girls basketball was king or queen, whatever you want to call it, and they were as high a quality basketball as there was around the entire state. What I saw, there's a difference in guys' approaches and girls. Girls, they're precise, and guys they'll power their way through stuff. And I'm seeing that in the girls wrestling. Man, there are some really, really good girl wrestlers today, and they're learning. Their learning curve is steep. They're really learning a lot right now, absorbing a lot, and So they're getting better faster. I enjoy watching anybody get good at, if they're practicing and working hard at stuff, I enjoy that. As it's introduced in the college levels and things now. So there's more opportunities.
Well, we're going to switch gears just a bit. This has been very insightful, but if the Wrestlecast is trying to carve its niche into the cyber world here, we're going to try to make this not purely wrestling. We're going to talk about some other things. So the first thing comes to your mind.
Oh, no.
Okay, here we go. Favorite movie of all time?
Night and Day.
Okay, you caught me with that one. I'm a movie
That's Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz.
Okay, now
Night and Day.
Second thing that
Tom
goes to my mind, why that one?
Well, I just explained myself. It makes my wife groan.
What's your favorite genre of movie?
I like action, followed by maybe romantic comedy.
If I were to give you $500, and however that $500 got spent, could be on a hotel room, could be whatever, what rock performer, singer would you want to see and where?
Oh boy, I'd like to see the Eagles. They're one of my all-time rock groups.
So is it fair to say Desperado is your favorite song ever?
I got a peaceful, easy feeling. How's that?
I'm late to the
Hotel
Eagles.
California.
I'm late to the Eagles bandwagon, but if a top chef was to come into this room right now and take your order, what would you want?
I would want a cowboy ribeye steak with some mashed potatoes and some green beans and awesome dessert, some kind of cheesecake.
What are you going to be doing here? I know that you are trying your hand at some sports media with the Tiger Cast. What's your other parts of your schedules look like?
Doing for ministry and helping people. And I do have a little bit of free time. I can go to sport events that I want to. I tell all the kids once I coach them that we're friends for life. If they ever need me, I'm going to be right here. I'm just a call away. And I love it when they graduate and I get a chance to go to their graduation parties and stuff.
Okay, we have just concluded our interview with Brian Swafford, and then he throws this boomerang at me. It turns out that the article that I mentioned earlier about being in Win magazine has now been picked up. It's written by Angel Saunders, who wrote the Win article. It's now been picked up by People magazine on their webpage. So Brian is not just a local legend now, he's becoming a national legend. So we have him here at New London Schools for this radio broadcast. So thank you, Brian, again for coming in, and I hope this story gets some more legs at some other venues. Thank you.
All right, we mentioned Gage earlier. Gage Gill couldn't be here, but he did speak with Winfield Mount Union Columbus wrestler. I got to get used to that Columbus on the end there. Shaeden Adams over the past week. And funny enough, he spoke to Shaeden about a new name for the Winfield Mount Union / Columbus wrestling team.
I'd like to welcome onto the Wrestlecast Shaeden Adams Jr. for the 10th ranked CJWMU. We'll call them Wildcats for now, but we'll get to that at the end. You've been 150 pounds at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
And now you're at 157.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us let's start with the cutting process. Let's go there first. Like, you've had to cut some weight, and over the course of your career. What's like your go-to? What's the best way to do it in your experience?
There's these things you can buy, like at the stores, like these little packs of food. They're only like 200 calories. They're honestly pretty good. I mean, I usually wake up a little bit later, so I don't normally eat breakfast, but it's probably just a me thing. But I'll have one of those, and then I'll cut lunch in half a little bit, sometimes less, and then just drink water, really.
So ration your food, kind of count calories, which that sounds pretty healthy. And then the water part, I mean, if you don't drink water, does that just make it hard to function? I mean, because sometimes you see those guys, that you can tell they're cutting and their body's not working right.
Yeah, for me, I actually just feel dehydrated and slower, kind of. I feel like it's healthier to drink water with everything.
Yeah, I'd agree. So you're kind of on the opposite side of it now. So you're going from 150 back up to 157. What's different about that? I mean, do you just eat normal, or do you have to eat more, or how's that work?
I ate more until I got up to the weight, and then I started eating normal to maintain it, really. Like every day after practice, I'd get back up to weight.
Do you prefer to be at your bigger weight?
Yeah. So I don't like not eating as much every day. Yeah, I feel a lot better at 157.
That's good. Yeah, I hope that 157 works out well. You know, you're a guy who's wrestled most of his life, right? And you have kind of a boxing background too, you know, kind of combat type sports. You're a Morning Sun pedigree. You know, you did the youth program there. You know, Morning Sun has a long line of wrestling history. I mean, do you feel like coming out of that town that most kids probably lean towards wrestling over basketball? That's a sport a lot of them do.
Yeah. Some kids that do play basketball in Morning Sun, and I know they still do in high school, and they're pretty good. But I feel like a lot more people wrestle for Morning Sun, really.
Out of all the people in your life, who do you feel like's kind of inspired you the most to, you know, do wrestling and stick with it over the years?
My dad, for sure. Every time after a match, no matter if like I win or lose, he always like tells me good job. He's like the first one to come to me after I'm done wrestling. And like before I wrestle, I'll see him in the stands, and then right as I'm going on the mat, then he'll be like right next to it. Like he comes down to watch close. And I hear him yelling over everyone.
There's a lot of support there Saturday. I showed up towards the end of Fort Madison. I didn't get there very early, but it's different. I'm still struggling finding our Winfield CJ people because I don't look for the blue. Like, what are your thoughts? You went from green as a youth, the Morning Sun, to black and red, and now you're blue. You've been about every color.
Yeah.
If you had to pick colors for CJWMU, what would you go with if we could repick and be any color we wanted to be?
Maybe just red and blue, because it's both the main colors of the school, really. And then
you could almost go USA.
Yeah.
Or just be like America based.
They both have white too.
That's true.
Our placement singlets for our matches, our placement matches, they're white.
I like those white ones. We were kind of talking about it before the tournament, but I liked those. You're in a program that shares, and right now I'd say it's working out pretty well for both schools. About half the varsity lineup guys are from Winfield Mount Union, about half from Columbus Junction. You're obviously a Winfield Mount Union. How is the sharing going? Because right now we go up, wrestle in Columbus Junction at their school every day.
Yeah.
You know, what are your thoughts on the sharing? Because it's different.
I like it, honestly. I mean, they provide transportation and everything, which is good, and then they have good coaching. There's a lot of good wrestlers are also at Columbus. I think both the schools definitely help each other out, for sure.
Seems to be working well. So we're about halfway through the season. You're on the 10th ranked dual team in Class 2A with only 3 classes. So, you know, the teams beat 4 or 5 ranked teams. You guys have been placing well in tournaments as well.
Yeah.
By the end of the season, what are some goals that you individually or as a team, you know, hope to accomplish?
As a team, I want to make it to state as a team, because that'd be pretty cool. We've been doing really, really well as a team, honestly. Yeah, just, I don't know, make it to state as a team. Have everyone meet their individual goals too. That'd be pretty nice, because I know everyone's been working in the room.
I know next Saturday will be big. I think that's Eddyville-Blakesburg dual tournament, right?
Yeah.
So you'll have a shot to wrestle some really good schools there. Okay, so I have some kind of goofy stuff for you, but Columbus Junction's the Wildcats, we're the Wolves. What are your thoughts? Instead of being the CJWMU Wildcats, we go Wild Wolves. Has a ring to it.
I'm wondering what it would look like.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. It could be just like a fierce, I don't even know, like a dog cat. What are your thoughts on leggers? Kids who stick the legs in, for it or against it?
I'm against it. I don't like people who leg ride. I've almost done it once, but our coaches never show it, so they told me to get my legs out. And whenever it's done to me, it's just annoying, because if they're good at it, then they're good at it.
Right.
If they're bad, it's really nothing. But if someone knows what they're doing, then it's pretty annoying.
Yeah, it's definitely a different type of match to watch when somebody's a legger.
Yeah, I've seen it happen quite a bit. It happened to my friend Colby.
Your go-to liquid during wrestling season?
I think it's a tropical body armor, like the yellow ones.
Oh, yeah.
I like those. Those are my favorite.
What about solids?
Probably just eggs, really. I mean, I come home, I'll eat them for breakfast or dinner. I mean, we have chickens too, so.
Yeah, those are probably good. You're talking about calories. Those are probably some of the best calories that you could come up with. All right, for any young wrestler that's watching the Wild Wolves this year, you know, and they're watching us just smoke everybody in these duels and do well in these tournaments, what would be your biggest recruiting pitch? Why should they wrestle when they get older?
I feel like it just helps. I mean, like in every other sport, once you've done conditioning for wrestling and once you've gotten in shape for it, then all the other conditioning for any other sport really doesn't affect you much. Like, it's not hard.
Sure.
Like, I went from wrestling and then wrestling throughout the summer to football, and then football conditioning was pretty easy. Then I'm going to go from wrestling into track. So. And
you do 400s in track, right?
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of stamina in that, so.
Yeah, so that it helps too. In wrestling, like, I remember my first high school practice, I came home and, like, I was sore everywhere. Like, my dad told me I built muscles that I didn't even know I had yet. Like, after, it just helps with everything, really.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. Shaeden Adams, 157-pounder for the 10th ranked Columbus Junction Winfield Mount Union Wild Wolves. We're changing it here. Thanks for your time.
All right, that was Gage Gill and Shaeden Adams. Thank you, Gage. Iowa Wrestle Iowa Corn present the Dan Gable Mrs. and Mr. Wrestler of the Year Awards in coordination with the Iowa Wrestling Coaches and Officials Association. That association accepted nominations from high school coaches for student athletes in each of 3 state wrestling classes for the men and combined all classes for the women's award, regardless of the year in school and weight class. A committee selected has recently provided Iowa Wrestle with a list of 15 finalist candidates, and that is all for the public input. Now, if you'd like to go and vote, you can go to iawrestle.com. That's iawrestle.com. They'll have a list there of all the top wrestlers, and you can make your vote. The public gets to choose. I guess you'd say it's kind of a People's Choice Award.
There's no ballot stuffing.
No ballot stuffing there. All right, Shane, we're going to talk here now a little bit about college wrestling over the past week. We're speaking about UNI earlier and Iowa at the Soldier Salute. What do you got for us?
Okay. I want to give a shout out to UNI. I didn't know that their season was heading in the right direction after seeing some scores earlier in this year, but I did catch UNI Nebraska highlights on YouTube, and I'm here to tell you that UNI had that match, and it was at Nebraska. So shout out to UNI. They're unranked as a team. They've kind of fallen on some hard times as far as dual victories, perhaps, but they really look strong. They beat Wyoming pretty easily, 36-8. But UNI versus Nebraska was the big matchup of the weekend for me to watch. It says in a matchup of 2023 All-Americans and a rematch from December's Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational. Cale Happel fell behind number 6 Brock Hardy 4-0. And I watched that match, and it looked like Hardy was just clearly the dominant wrestler in that. Happel broke him down, just wore him out, and was able to score some points in a late reversal, and he wins 11-8 in sudden victory. UNI 184 wrestler, who's ranked number 1, Parker Kekison, he teched followed Elise Brown-Ton 17-2, and that had UNI really in the thick of things. And I thought they're going to pull off this upset. And then Nebraska's Silas Allred, ranked 11th, beats Wyatt Volker, who was ranked 19th from UNI, and that was a fall. And from all indications, that fall was a pretty quick judgment. That hand hit the Resolite pretty quick. You know, it is what it is, and it just goes to show you how even these teams are at this level. But then Tyrell Gordon from UNI, he scored a major decision against Harley Andrews of Nebraska, 9-1 major decision. So that made it 17-17, and only because of a criteria point. Okay, the same criteria point that cost UNI ended up being the difference for Iowa women to clinch the national duels title. That was in Cedar Falls, speaking of UNI. Goes to show you that Iowa has perhaps more of a tradition on the men's side, but they're in for a battle to get these female wrestlers. It's not going to just be, oh, Iowa's got a program now, let's just all go to Iowa. North Central College, which I had to look up to be honest, they were tied 20-20 at the end of the duels, and it turned out that Iowa got that crucial criteria point to claim the title. So now that they're off and running, we'll see how the future holds. But Iowa, as a women's program, off to a good start. But they've got some really good and talented NAIA schools and NCAA Division III schools that are going to give them all the attention that they want. This is Clarissa Chun's quote. "This is what we want for women's wrestling. It was a very competitive match. And to have two top programs battling in what is good for the sport, and without Marlene's pin or JC's passivity point, who knows what could have happened. Any team can win on any given day, and today was our day." So we'll go through the results for you just a little bit. At 101, Sterling Diaz tech-falled number 3, Maddie Avila, and this is the 21-20 championship match. North Central was ranked first, by the way. At 109, Ava Bayless, decision Jaslyn Gallegos. Sydney Petzinger from North Central, decision number 3, Brianna Gonzalez, 8-4. At 123, number 1, Amani Jones from North Central defeats Felicity Taylor of Iowa, 12-3. Number 6, Salome Walker from North Central, 130. Decisions Emily Frost, 8-2. At 136, Yale Acock from North Central, decisions Lily Luft, 6-2. And 143, Reese Laramendi, decision to Alara Boyd. 155, which was the key to the whole match, Marlene Deed of Iowa, fall over number 4 at London Houston, and it only took 138 as far as timers go. And number 1, Iowa 170 pounder Kylie Welker, decision Jelena McCoy from North Central, 11-3. And then Treya Haynes from North Central, decision J.C. Fowler of Iowa, 6-1. So a lot of good competition out there up at UNI. It turns out that if you look at the scores, number 2 Iowa beats number 3 King, 31-8. And I think if memory serves, number 1 North Central beat number 4 McKendree, like 31-12. So it will be a 2-team battle for that number 1 spot between Iowa and North Central College, but these other programs are not that far behind.
Iowa wrestling and actually high school girls wrestling really taken off, and I'm glad that we're on top of that. We will be talking with Mediapolis wrestling coach Travis Griffith the next week here on the podcast. Anything else, Shane?
Just in case you didn't know, Drake Ayala, Riel Woods, Gabe Arnold, Caleb Rathjen, Zach Glazier, controversial match that we've alluded to. They were the champions at the Soldier Salute. Watched many YouTube videos and podcasts about the Soldier Salute. It looks like this is going to be challenging the Midlands in the near future and the Southern Scuffle as a preeminent in-between semester type tournament. The Iowa Hawkeyes won, of course, and there was lots of controversy, of course. But the talent and let's just say the margin of error was not very much. These are talented wrestlers, and we hope to follow them for you this year.
Basically, it's a showcase, or is right now, and eventually will become a showcase where everybody coming and watching some of the best wrestling right here in Iowa.
Yeah, it was fun to see. I need to get up there, obviously. But I have done a metamorphosis for you, Danny, in the last month. I am really enjoying this assignment. I'll be the first to tell you that wrestling was not my first love, but I'm really starting to appreciate just how good these athletes are, just how talented they are. What we all kind of want to see is good, solid wrestling in between the circles.
We're going to have to get on some of your writer friends from the Burlington Hawkeye and some of the other guys. It'd be nice to have a little round table discussion from those guys.
Just give me the go-ahead, Dan. I'm ready to go.
We'll do her. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure and like and subscribe. Really appreciate that. Thank you. You've been joining us here on the Wrestlecast. For Shane Barron, I'm Danny Davis, and we'll talk to you next week. Oops, I forgot to push record. No, I'm just
That's it for this week's edition of the Wrestlecast. For questions on advertising on our program, or if you'd just like to drop us a line, you can do so at sportscastmedia@outlook.com. Follow Sportscast Media on Facebook or go to our website at www.sportscastmedia.com. The Wrestlecast is a presentation of the Sportscast Media Network.